giving you useful and practical tips to help you make more money selling travel. This is the Art of Selling Travel Podcast, and here to guide you through it all, your host, Glenda Beagle.
Well, hello. How are you today? I've just returned from a week and a half, or what feels like a month and a half of time on the road. I was super excited. I got to go down to Pennsylvania to participate in the Central Pennsylvania ASTA chapters Grow Your Travel Business Symposium, and it was fantastic. I love any time I get to hang out with local travel advisors, hang out with them, hear what they're struggling with, answer their questions, spend some one-on-one time together. And it was a blast. I'd also never been to that part of the country. I think it's kind of a reminder that we need to do a little bit more exploration closer to home. Now, obviously, Pennsylvania from Alberta, not super close to home as it felt as I did days of travel. But I flew into Toronto, drove through Niagara, and then down through New York State and into Pennsylvania. And I have to say, the countryside was beautiful and I loved it. Okay, so moving on though, I want to talk to you about this incessant need people have to immediately pitch without having a conversation, without having connection or rapport or context. It is getting out of hand. Now, back in the day, way back when, LinkedIn was kind of like the safe space in some ways because you weren't constantly inundated. You weren't being added to every Tupperware party group and this, that, the other. It was kind of a place you could go hang out, make connections with people. And for the most part, they were definitely going to connect with you, get to know you a little bit. And then, of course, then they were going to pitch. But it's kind of turned into the wild, wild west, even on LinkedIn. I had somebody reach out to me who I know did not read my bio whatsoever and was immediately trying to sell me stuff as a supplier. And all I thought was, you're going to need to take a beat, read what it is that I do, and then decide how it is you're going to pitch to me from there. Well, better yet, just ditch the pitch. I want to add another word there, but there might be children in your car listening, so I'm not going to. But let's just say it may rhyme with the other two, because that's how I feel sometimes. When I am getting these constant inundations with people who just want to sell me stuff. And, maybe that's the way they taught us to do it on Instagram back in 2016, that you follow everybody that your competitors follow or that follows your competitors. And then you just immediately send them a pitch, whether it's Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever it is. Guess what? We are in 2023, almost 2024 when I'm recording this. That doesn't work anymore. That's how you're going to find your deal searchers, your discount clients. When you use cheap tactics, you're going to get cheap clients. It's just kind of the laws of nature on that one. And some may not agree with me, and that's okay. But I'm going to stand firm in that, because when I get these pitches from people, especially LinkedIn, that's where most of mine come from. It feels very spammy. It feels, icky. You've sent me a connection, and they're usually the ones that maybe don't send much in the connection message, which I shouldn't say too much, because I will fully admit this is somewhere that I am not the strongest at. When I connect with people on LinkedIn, I need to get better at sending them a intro to say, hey, this is who I am. I would love to connect with you because because we're both in the travel industry, because we both serve travel advisors, because we both, whatever, but not to go immediately into a pitch. I can't tell you in the last little while here how many people I've accepted the connection with, and immediately, like within half an hour, they've pitched to me. I haven't even had time to look and see what you're about yet. And now you just immediately want to sell to me? It feels icky. It's sort of like those spam bots on Instagram that are, you come follow us and we're going to let you buy our product for a discount so long as you promote it on your page. And gross. But yet, that's what some of the quote unquote coaches out there are telling you to do. Immediately like and follow everybody that's following your competitors. Like and follow and immediately message them and tell them what all you do. Here's the thing. When you immediately go into the pitch and you immediately tell them what it is you do, guess what? They've already checked out. Because people don't care what you do. They care about how they're going to get their problem solved. We live in a very self-entitled world. Like it or not, that's the reality. So when we go out with our marketing as self-entitled, they're not going to pay attention because they want to know what's in it for them. It's that same sort of idea. I remember years ago, and I do mean years ago, I was told, friend everybody. If they're in your niche, friend them. Fill up your Facebook. Go to the maximum number of friends you're allowed to have. Now, I've recently started accepting friend requests, please, but this is not necessarily an open invitation. But it took me a long time to start allowing that to happen because I was a very, I don't want to say very private because I'm a very public person in terms of what I do. But I don't even know how to properly explain this. I really like personal safety, if you will. That's probably the better way to do it. So while I'm a very public person and whatnot, and I have places that I'm very public. I have a public facing Instagram, both on a personal level, but also on a professional level. The content's going to be different because the personal one, truly, that's just me. That's what's going on. Sometimes I post regularly. Sometimes I forget about it for a couple months, but it's my own personal one. So it is what it is. With the business one, the Art of Selling Travel on Instagram, that's where I'm going to be posting content specifically for travel advisors. And that's going to be kind of a curated content in terms of the fact that I'm going to think through what I'm posting. Probably not going to see as much of my dogs and cats and things like that because you're going to find that more over on my personal one. But in terms of my Facebook, well, that's where I'm going to share local events and I'm going to share things that are going on in my hometown and things. So really, it's not what what other travel advisors are going to find interesting. So I don't really go out with the intention of using that one to connect with everybody. And yet I'm still to this day seeing people who are saying, you've got to friend everybody. We're living in a world where everything is digital. And while there is a concept of, well, everything's out there, you might as well. I also want to know that when my family posts things, I'm going to be able to see it. I want to know that when my friends are sharing something, I'm going to see it. So I try to keep my list really small on my personal Facebook, simply so that I can have those connections because that's what I use it for. And yet there's so many that are out there. I know I had friended somebody or like they had sent me a friend request and I accepted it from a local in business, women in business group. The moment I accepted it, they immediately messaged me. Okay, so I have like this great thing and it's awesome and you should buy it and blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not what my Facebook's for. I will happily follow your page or unfollow it, whichever. I will happily connect with you in person and all of this. But I don't want people coming into what I would consider my personal space because this is where I would go and I would hang out with people that I would hang out with if I was going to go have a drink with them. Let's go Friday night. Let's go have a drink. And yes, I am of an age where a drink need to be home by 8:30 because I got to go to bed, you know? But that's the sort of conversations that I want to have. And the more that I'm hearing from people, that's the sort of conversations they want to have. Yet there's so much of this constant pitching that's going on. And yet advisors are saying, but I don't have any leads. Where is everybody hanging out? Why can't I get leads? Well, I'm going to see it's because you're starting with a pitch. People want to know what's in it for them. And here's the scoop. Sales start with the very first interaction. Sales are not about the call to action. They're not about getting the credit card. Yes, they are, but at the same time, no, they're not. Because sales is going to start with that very first interaction in terms of how do you make people feel? And for me, that was part of what factored into whether or not I allowed travel advisors that sent me a friend request. What did I do with that? And I did finally ultimately decide that I would accept them limitedly, that I had to have some degree of connection to them because it was all part of the process of how it is that they would feel. The other thing is ultimately I am the same person online as I am offline. And so if you end up sending me a friend request, let's be honest, you are going to see what's going on Main Street in my town. You're going to see what's going on here, what's going on there, frankly, it's a little boring. But anyways, sales start with that very first interaction. And from that first moment, your clients will start deciding at what point they're going to opt out, not necessarily opt in, but definitely to opt out and be like, nope, not doing it. Nope, I can't do that person. They annoy me. They are completely all about themselves, all these different sorts of things. And they're going to, right from the moment, decide how it is that you make them feel. People are going to start making that decision whether or not they'll start buying from you or whether or not they'll buy from you, starting with that first interaction. See, people buy you. People buy from people. They don't buy from businesses. And because of that, they buy based on how you've made them feel. They may not decide yes right away, but they will decide no right away. And you're never going to get a second chance to make that first impression, particularly when it's the pitch that you led with. I attended this one marketing session. It was probably in about 2018 or so, and I went to it. And I remember him being there, and I laugh because he said, I do have a marketing degree. I got it back in 1987. And he goes, and it ain't worth the paper it was written on, because the paper it was written on probably came from a phone book. And he was talking about how all the marketing back then was all about how do you optimize, how do you get the better pages in the yellow, how do you get the better posting in yellow pages? How do you do this? It was all print marketing. Today, to get a phone book is quite rare. And yet in our town, we actually still have a phone book. I'm going to tell you a story because it just cracks me up. Because I used to use this one when I was coaching marketing for small businesses. And it was that this jewelry store had a full page glossy ad inside of the phone book. And while we did have a very heavy senior citizen population in our community, the ad they chose to run was an engagement ring ad. I talked on the live inside my group earlier today about the fact that you've got to make sure that your niche, you're showing up where they're showing up, that you're going in front of where they're at. And yet I don't think I've ever heard a young person say, oh, I am so in love. I can't wait to propose. Quick, hand me the phone book. Where can I find an ad to buy a ring? That's not how it works. And yet that ad ran right up until 2022, before the owners retired and closed down the business. It blew my mind that was the ad that they would run every year. You want to make sure that it's in the right spot, because it's one thing to market somewheres, but it's another to make sure you're marketing the right thing in the right place. I am realizing we are chasing a squirrel here. But the thing is, though, is that you want to make sure that what you're doing matches up with what you're wanting that outcome to be. I'm going to go all the way back to the story here. The guy was talking about the phone book and things like that. And then he said, everything about marketing has changed. He goes, we all used to talk about the elevator pitches. Here's the thing. Nobody wants to be pitched to, and elevators are boring. That one stuck with me, because really and truly, elevators are boring. And I feel like in a post-COVID world, we all second guess how many germs are inside of that, especially when it crams full of people. But the other thing is nobody wants to be pitched to. So if you're using those tactics, whereas immediately after somebody connects with you on LinkedIn, or immediately somebody connects with you on Instagram, or wherever it is, you're hitting the pitch, I want you to think twice. I want you to ditch the pitch. Instead, ask them questions. Let them talk about themselves. When I do a consultation, I don't immediately go into, I am the very best that you are ever going to work with, and I am this, and I am that, and I am, because nobody would want to listen to that. Instead, I say to them, well, hello, I'm so glad that you were able to fit time into your schedule. I can't wait to hear all about you and what it is that you're looking to do. You'd be amazed how many times I hear them say, well, I don't know what I want to do. And I said, not a problem. We're still going to get to exactly the perfect vacation for you. Would it be all right if I ask you some questions? And you know what? The more they talk, the more they love. Because people love to talk about themselves. And when you give them the opportunity to do the talking, guess what? They're going to take that opportunity to start selling themselves on you, because they're going to believe that you are the one listening to them, that you're the one who is hearing them, seeing them, letting them be heard and seen. So the next time that you're making a new connection with somebody, don't start the conversation about yourself. Start the conversation about them. Congratulate them on something awesome that's going on in their world. Did they just post something about winning an award, winning a prize, one of their kids going off to college? Whatever it is, make it about them. Because the more they get to talk about themselves, the more they will actually begin to like you. It is the craziest thing, but I promise you, it completely works. Okay, until next time, ditch the pitch and happy selling. We'll see you next week.